Ladies and gentlemen, we are live and NASCAR is back as we get to some short track action on the Saturday afternoon for tomorrow's running of the Cookout 400 at the Richmond Raceway for the NASCAR Cup Series as we will begin practice here in just a few minutes from now. Appreciate everybody tuning in here for this one, our first live commentary stream in 3 weeks now, as the last 2 weeks have been off for NASCAR during the Olympic break. The Olympics still going on over in Paris as they're finishing up this weekend, but NASCAR not having 3 weeks off, 2 weeks off for this weekend due to the Olympics still going on. That is why we have full practice and qualifying coverage today on the NBC Sports app, which I believe was also the case during the Olympic trials that were taking place the weekend at the Brickyard 400, which was the last time we saw the NASCAR Cup Series on track. So after a couple of weeks of a hiatus, we have just 4 races to go in the regular season into this weekend, and a lot is at stake for those final 4 playoff spots that are still available. Unless we see 4 different winners that have not won a race this season, in the next 4 races, we will start to see drivers lock themselves in on points here soon. Speaking of the point standings, we'll take a look at that before practice gets underway today. Kyle Larson leads the series just 10 points ahead of his teammate Chase Elliott in the race for the regular season championship, and those additional 15 playoff points that go along with winning the regular season title. Tyler Reddick is 15 points out of first and third, very tight with the top 3, and Denny Hamlin not that far back as well, minus 43 points. Ryan Blaney moved up a couple spots after the Indy race a few weeks ago. He is now in the top 5 in points for the first time since the first quarter of the season. Appreciate everybody tuning in here this weekend. Hope to see a lot of you over the next 3 streams, live commentary streams at that. Of course, again, practice qualifying right here on this stream. It'll be a 45-minute practice session for the Cup Series, and it will be an open practice, so there will be no groups, but we will still have our typical group qualifying when we get into single car qualifying, which is immediately after practice, all on this stream. We'll have the Truck Series live commentary coverage later tonight, which is also at the Richmond Raceway. That will begin at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with tomorrow's Cup race and the pre-race show beginning for ourselves right here on KRC at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So, under the lights at Richmond for the truck race later tonight. Under the lights tomorrow for the Cup race at Richmond as well. That one will start the daytime and in the night, with a slightly earlier start time than that of the Truck Series later on today. I believe 4:35 Eastern was supposed to be the drop of the green flag for practice, so went live a little bit earlier than that. I'm on the NBC Sports app right now. It says coverage will begin shortly. I don't think their airtime begins for like 3 more minutes yet, so it's still having a blank screen on my end, but appreciate everybody that is tuned in for practice and qualifying coverage yet again. I have a poll up in the chat that we will leave open until the end of first round qualifying today. So this will be open probably for about a good hour and a half or so. And I asked you guys who will qualify on the poll today at Richmond. Went with probably my 3 favorites for the poll coming into this one. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr. Larson has the most polls of any driver so far this season. Denny Hamlin, of course, has been great at Richmond, especially in this next-gen era. Truex great runs here in the past, more in the Gen 6, but we'll see if he can have a full run in his final season and final career race here at the Richmond Raceway, at least under full-time Cup Series competition. New tires will be in play for this weekend. Remember, back to the All-Star race where we had our traditional tire that Goodyear would have, and then we also had a kind of like a primary tires, what they called it, during the All-Star race weekend. We will have those primary tires available for this weekend's race as well. It is not mandated that each team has to use the prime tires or the primary tires, and that is because this is not an exhibition race, so you can't mandate that they're going to use them. But with only 9 sets of total tires, 7 of the standard, 2 of the primary, we'll have to see how these teams are going to go about that this weekend. That's all going to kind of go into this practice session, as we'll get to see who is going to be fastest on the primary tires, who's going to be fastest on the standard tires, and they're going to get a good gauge of how much more fall off each of the tires have from one another on a track that is very abrasive. We're definitely going to see more fall off with these different tires in this one than what we saw at North Wilkesboro. Some extra tests, of course, with these tires could factor into that as well, but a much older race surface at the very least. Billy Kramer, Matthew Dorda, Bruno, you guys are the first in the chat down below. Appreciate that. Our goal is to get to 50 likes on this practice qualifying stream. We're at 11 right out of the gate here, so be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more NASCAR content as well. So the option tires are going to be a red sticker or red lettering on the Goodyear sign on the sidewall of the race tire, and a gold typical like yellow lettering that you would see on the Goodyear tires for our standard primary tires. I worded that kind of weird about primary. It's primary option tires. Option tires, you get 2 of them. Primary, which are our standard tires that we would see most weekends, 6 sets of those for the race. I think each of these teams get 1 set of each for practice, if I'm not mistaken. And everybody rolling off pit road at the same time as we are under green flag conditions here in practice. So we're waiting for our first couple drivers to complete a lap. Looks like Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, the 2311 Toyotas, will be the first 2 on the track, and they will be the first 2 on our lap chart to complete a time. Denny Hamlin just behind them, so a lot of Toyotas getting off pit road early. And these guys are cleaning their tires off down on the apron of the racetrack, waiting to get up to speed. But again, we are under green flag conditions at the moment. Yeah, so a lot of those Toyotas. The 2311 Toyotas rolled off first, and Joe Gibbs Toyotas just after them. Already about 60 seconds have ticking off the clock. So this is definitely going to be an interesting practice session to watch, and you'll get to listen into the coverage on the NBC Sports app with the booth commentators. So I'll turn it over to them.
Slide for your car, and then the other reason is simply because you're going to have to run this year. How many laps that these teams are going to work the option tire tomorrow? So getting the cars running in the fix line for these primary tires is going to be the biggest key for these teams here. And then as the track runs in, I think we may see some more teams kind of put these alternate tires on, the option tires on, and see how they adjust once the racetracks get run on a little bit here with this cup tire. So lots of different approaches up and down pit road, including some last-minute audibles. The team that rolled out on one compound and then switched to another and pit two. And I know there's some teams that have kind of divided up the dividing conquer mentality. One car starting on one and others starting on the other. That's right, Dylan. We saw the car pit. What they would start on. Now, first user job that's on, and then here either exactly big type of tire under the exact same condition. So the same amount of rubber, the same taste, same plow cover, so that a big slice on the same conditions. Now, there were teams that made audibles, like you mentioned, in the last minute, they changed tires. I saw Morgan Byers front reds, the one of first half eight. That conditions during giving a practice most different than the majority of the race. So the theory feels to make that time of practice on the prime tire. So know what they're going to have for the majority of the race. So we spend the practice on the other. So similar to what Dylan said, but kind of starting to dredge, get them out of the way, spend the predominant amount of time in practice on that prime tire. Right, the real challenge is just hard to see. Like you look at that 17, I guess it's a little bit easier to see that it's a darker sidewall, maybe doesn't have that bright yellow. So, that's why on the left you're going to see that not only the tire title, but those little yellow chips and red chips that kind of help the fan understand what each team is on. Steve, I think the largest challenge for drivers and teams today is, as well as I do, but maybe better than I do, different sets of tires make your car drive differently. So how do you, as a team, put a set of tires on, get the car driving the way you want, and then put the other set on and get it driving the way you want with those as well? I think that's just going to be difficult. You come here and test, or you come to a race, and you put a set of tires on, and the car needs a different setup. It needs to be driven different. It needs to be set up differently. I just think that's the largest challenge for these teams trying to find a way to make both of those tires go fast.
Jeff, give me the bigger picture. Why? Why are we giving these drivers and teams two options as far as what to put on?
Yeah, simply put, there's been a trouble with passing, right? It's been a little bit hard to pass on short tracks, and trying to add another variable and another opportunity with strategy to put a tire on the car that might be better than the next guy and give an opportunity to pass. So it's an experiment. Other series do this, and it works very well in other series. So we did it in North Wilkesboro, but this is the first point paying race simply to try to make the racing better.
Austin Dillon there in the 3, that Mass Pro Shops on the hood. And he has the red or option tires on. He's the fastest as far as a lap so far here at Richmond. Really, RCR, Richard Childress Racing, has been looking for any bright spot in the 2024 season. And maybe this is it. We're seeing Austin right now at the top of the speed chart. His teammate is on the prime, which is Kyle Busch. He's currently 18th fastest. And you look at the difference, about 0.4 of a second faster, Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon is faster by 0.4 of a second, and those are the different type of tires. Now, the difference between Austin Dillon and Bubba Wallace, that's only a tenth. Actually, a little less than a tenth of a second between the 3 and the 23, and they're on 2 different sets of tires.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't think as a consumer we're going to really learn anything about the tires. It's what the teams do, right? Because every car, there's, the other thing that struck me when the cars pulled off, Jeff, it's been a long time since we had all 36 cars practice there once. And this place was busy. I think I've become a little accustomed to 20 car or less than that, 18 car practices. Because if you look out right now at this 3/4 mile track, dang, it could be halfway through the race. There's cars everywhere.
Yeah, so far 28 cars, now 31 cars have been on track.
So for, the teams, it's not just, as Jeff pointed out, how your car handles, but are the tires faster? If so, for how long? What kind of wear do they promote? You mentioned Bubba Wallace. He's made a huge shift in the points recently. I mean, all the way down to only now
7 back.
7 back, right? And I didn't think it was possible that somebody could make their way in on points. Him and Busch Barker on the bottom right 5 or 6 weeks ago, but he has worked his way to only 7, which now is very obtainable. Now you have to think there may be a new winner. I know Booty's not kind of like hang his hat on the fact that they only have to make up 7 points, but 7 points might be enough. And 5 weeks ago when it was outside 50, I thought it was going to take an absolute run.
Yeah, not a must-win situation anymore. You look at the points on the left, and with 4 races to go, there are 4 drivers that haven't won. They're still above that cut line. The top of those being Martin Truex Jr. at 108 points. But you get down to Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, those guys very tight between the 3 of them, 17 points separating them. Final season for Martin Truex Jr. as he announced his retirement at the Iowa race earlier this year. We'll see. It has been quite some time, but this is a racetrack where Martin Truex Jr. has had great success.
He would love to get a win in that final year too, Ray. I mean, they want to make the playoffs. They want to make a championship run. All of those things for sure. But, when we talk a lot about it, Jeff, but at some point, the wins, right? I mean, we race to win. I know looking back on my career, I put so much pressure on myself in these playoffs to try to make runs, but I can't really remember. I was never fortunate enough to win a championship. Maybe that would have changed and I would have a great memory of a certain year. But other than that, I remember the wins more than the playoff runs.
Talk about wins, how monumental they can be. Back in 2021, Martin Truex Jr. And for so many years, we talked about Martin not being able to win on a short track. Well, 6 wins later, Martin Truex Jr. is pretty darn good on short tracks.
Yeah, I think Martin Truex and his team with nothing to lose, right? Martin's driving free. He's loose. He's having a good time. I think they're very dangerous. I think this team going into the playoffs, we know when they get fast, they are really second. And I wouldn't count them out. I know they haven't had the year, the win, Steve, you were talking about, but
they are 100 points safe for making the playoffs. They haven't shown that consistent race winning speed, obviously, but still, I think a relaxed Martin Truex is a dangerous one, and certainly that's where he is right now.
Laps led, but again, the win column's still empty for Martin Truex Jr.
Truex led 228 laps at Richmond in the spring race earlier this season. Had a lot of speed there. Fell behind on a little bit of late race strategy with a late race pit stop. Lost a couple positions off a caution in the final 20 laps or so. So we'll see if he can capitalize on pit strategy, which we'll see a lot of, especially with this extra set of tires, different set of tires that these teams have this weekend with the option tires in play. Our leaderboard right now has Austin Dillon at the top of the speed chart, so we're probably going to see quite a bit of changes going on here through practice once these teams that are on their current set of tires will move to the next set of tires. So the ones that started on option will probably move to prime tires, get a gauge of the race car there. The ones that started on the primary tires will then move to option, and I would imagine that'd be right around the halfway mark of this practice, so about 22 minutes or so remaining, 20 minutes remaining. We're going to see a lot of flip-flopping on the leaderboard once again. 25 laps have been ran by some of the drivers who have ran the most laps in this race, and everybody has ran at least 10 laps that has been on the track so far. Austin Dillon ran some of the most, and he is still the fastest car on the racetrack with the best overall time of a 22.698. But with that fall off over this 25 lap run, his last lap he ran was over 2 seconds slower than his fastest lap. Bubba Wallace about 2/10 quicker than Austin Dillon on his 25th lap. So not as much fall off for Wallace as he is in second place. And as you heard, Bubba comes into this one first driver below the cutoff line of points yet again, but only now 7 points behind Ross Chastain for the final spot, and only 17 points also behind Chris Buescher. Buescher won at Richmond in this very race last season. That took place during the daytime, though. This one in the night, we'll see if Buescher can maybe turn things around. He had a solid run at Richmond earlier this season as well. So with Austin Dillon top of the leaderboard right now, Bubba Wallace is second as mentioned, Christopher Bell third, Martin Truex Jr. fourth, and Zane Smith, the rookie, in fifth. Carson Hocevar, another Spire Motorsports Chevy, is in sixth. He has only ran 8 laps now as he just hit the racetrack not that long ago. Chris Buescher in 7th, Michael McDowell 8th, Daniel Suarez 9th, Ty Gibbs is 10th. Denny Hamlin in 11th, Chase Briscoe 12th, Corey LaJoie 13th, Justin Haley 14th, Ross Chastain 15th, Eric Jones in 16th. 17th for Riley Herbst, who's in the 15th for Rick Ware Racing this weekend. 18th for Kyle Busch, Ty Gilliland 19th, Noah Gragson 20th, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 21st. 22nd for Brad Keselowski, Ty Dillon 23rd, Tyler Reddick 24th, Daniel Hemrick 25th, William Byron 26th, Harrison Burton 27th, Joey Logano 28th, John Hunter Nemechek 29th, Ryan Blaney deep in the field in 30th. Ryan Preece 31st, Kyle Larson, Olsen Cindric 34th, Chase Elliott 35th, and Josh Berry has not yet hit the track. Berry, the only driver who hasn't taken a lap in practice to this point, as we are only about 13 minutes into this 45-minute session.
Yes. From a 20,000-foot view, it seems like the option tire, 15 laps, definitely dominates that average lap time.
Seven of Corey LaJoie out on track, and over the break, the news came out that Corey LaJoie would not be returning to Spire, and so that made you scratch your head after that information came out, because now where does Corey LaJoie go? A very talented race car driver.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see where Corey ends up. Obviously, it was one of those drivers that made it pretty public that he was driving for an underfunded team. He knew he could do it with a really good team, and got a chance, to build this team up. And now that they've gotten to their higher level, now they're going a different route. And he's heartbroken about that. And but he's a fighter. He's not going to quit. He's going to, he's got to tough himself through this. This has happened to all of us, or most of us. And it'll be interesting to see where it ends up. It doesn't mean just because he's lost his ride, it doesn't mean his career's over. It does mean he may be in a rebuild mode a little bit, but we've seen other people rebuild and come back and do a really good job.
And Steve, I think all of us thought that when the announcement came out that Rodney Childers was going to Spire, he was going to be with the 7th, that those two were going to pair up. But now the news of Pour LaJoie not being there, does that change kind of how you look at Rodney Childers' move to Spire?
I look at the Rodney Childers move like the college team hiring a big name coach. I look at like somebody trying to go get Nick Saban or or like the Clemson coach or just any of these big name coaches for the recruiting. Now I know that's high school kids trying to move to college, but I look at it where there's a lot of young drivers' names being floated out there in the Xfinity Series, in the Truck Series, in the Cup Series, some with financing, some without financing. But when you say, hey, what do you have that the next team doesn't when we have the same cars and the same opportunities and all these same things? I think Rodney Childers is something you could say, this is what we have. We have a championship crew chief. Maybe that's a difference maker. Plus, anytime you get somebody like Rodney Childers in your garage, I think it's a good choice.
Dylan, what are we learning about that 3 team?
Well, we're about to learn a lot more. Austin Dillon did just come in after a 26-lap stint on the option tires, the softer tires, and this was in radio feedback when he pulled into the pits. I'm pretty decent. I'm just a little too tight in the middle there as I run, so I'm having to make it through loop. Another thing. Come on, buddy. You're like really good right there. Really an issue. Just stay in the front. And she just has the guide test. It's in front of Brad Keselowski, who was the primary careers. Brad didn't close in on him, but here's the interesting thing. They put Austin in, let him sit, and just sit him back out, and used option tires. They're going to have a snaking on him now. We'll see what they do here for Dillon as he gets back up to speed. Rick, I mean, there's definitely more. I'm willing to state there are more speeds in the option tire. And if you look at it, there's only 5 prime tires in the top 16. The rest are all red, stacked up around there on fast lap. The red tires are dominating 10-lap average, dominating 15-lap average. And, we don't do 30-lap averages. But Jeff and I are looking on here, and there are cars down there at lap 35. Like when I look at Buscher, and I look at Truex, those guys on the red tires at lap 35, Jeff, they have definitely slowed down more than the cars on the yellows. Now, tomorrow night's a whole different ballgame. The other thing that comes into play is that, cars are moving around the racetrack, just as I said that. The guy that was really moving around the racetrack was Ross Chastain, and this makes it a little bit hard to understand exactly the ball off because some drivers have gotten way up the racetrack. The one car was one of those guys. He had been out there for a long time on the option tire. So he, by changing lanes, could have made the tire look better than it actually was. So that's something that crew chief, driver, engineers after practice have to sit down and have that conversation. Yes, I do think our car is good, but keep in mind, we changed lanes. We were up there when nobody else was. Was that fooling us a little bit? Our cars maybe not be as good as we think it is just because of that. The garage has been a little bit vocal about having 2 groups and how hard it is to understand where you compare. So now we have one group where we have 2 different sets of tires. Yeah. So I'm not in at least multiple lanes on the racetrack. There's going to be a lot of head scratching looking at this data tonight.
Tim, what about the 48 and 9 teams?
Yeah, for the 48 of Alex Bowman, the car was not where they needed to unload. Alex described it really tight in the center, which we typically see here at Richmond. He said the entry was okay, but tight from the apex off. It was not bad enough to come in for adjustments, so they kept going, but they certainly will need to continue to work on that car. No report yet from Chase Elliott, but he's got quite a few less laps put on the track than the rest of the field at just 22. That was by design. Alan Gustafson told me they did not want to send him out on a green track. They wanted a lot of rubber laid down before they tried any tire out there here at Richmond.
Hendrick Motorsports definitely not unloading very fast when you consider that Larson's 32nd, Alex Bowman is 33rd, Chase Elliott is 35th. Of 36 cars that have hit the racetrack so far. Again, Josh Berry, the only driver who has not made a lap yet. And we're already almost halfway through this practice session, about 26 minutes to go. So 19 minutes in. A few minutes shy of halfway through the 45 minutes total. No cautions to this point. 18 one-thousandths of a second, the margin between the top 2. With Austin Dillon being the fastest on the option tire, fastest on the primary tire, Bubba Wallace, who was second and fourth. Especially the second and third place cars of Wallace and Bell, they were the fastest on the primaries, and the option tires look to hold up a little longer on the longer run. A faster 15-lap average pace from what we've seen with the data so far. So top 10, still Austin Dillon, Bubba Wallace second, Christopher Bell third, Martin Truex Jr. fourth, Zane Smith fifth, Carson Hocevar 6th, 7th for Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell 8th, Daniel Suarez 9th, Ty Gibbs 10th, We'll take our first ad break as we're practice session again here at Richmond. Shout out to other of you guys that are watching. I haven't given shout out to quite yet. Simon Poe, Joey Poletti, Patrick Shadley, Michael Turner, B. Dobson, Dark Crypto, Lovey Barkley. Thanks for tuning in. Matthew Dorter Bruno, welcome in again as well. See a Truex win prediction for tomorrow. Kyle Busch any better this week? Well, we're very early in this practice session. He was still on his first set of tires, about mid-pack right now for him. But his teammate Austin Dillon's first, so there's a little bit of promise there for RCR. Dillon's had some good runs at Richmond, though, towards the end of the Gen 6 era. Remember, he had a top 3 car. What was that, 2020 or 2021? One of those 2 years when he made the playoffs. I think it was 2020. It was the year he won at Texas and he made the playoffs. Made it out of the first round because of that Richmond race. Scored a ton of stage points. I think he might have won a stage that day as well. But yeah, ran top 3 the whole day. And, you know, maybe we'll see Austin Dillon have a good run this weekend at one of his better racetracks.
I've seen a long time. But Smith, Chris Busch, that's really an issue if you like Chris Busch. You like St. Smith, it's kind of an issue, but he can run. I mean, you see.
Dang.
Yeah,
I didn't even see this.
With points, regular season, everything's going. This had a cross Chris Busch for position. Hard to tell exactly how many, but a lot of cars were fast. Wasn't better.
Yeah.
It didn't help him. That's for sure.
These red tires, which are the option, they're putting on the yellow. It looks like Prime. Kim, what else is happening with this team?
Well, Chris Dave, team, the feedback at the run, those option tires, the red light, the torque I lost entry was rolling over on the right front tire, and the right rear felt sliding. So keeping that in mind, Steve, and I'll give it to Jeff too. If your driver is telling you that about the option set of tires, and we know the balance is going to be different on the prime set of tires, say just below with that yellow lettering, can you guess as a crew chief what the balance is going to do now on the primes now that you know what it is on the option?
I don't have enough experience to guess, and I don't believe the teams do either. There's been a few guys that have ran this, back and forth at different tests and at different racetracks. But I think here at Richmond, there's not a lot of confidence exactly what it's going to do. I think that's why it's so important to just kind of get both underway here in Bragg. I always felt like whenever the car went faster with different tires in the tire test or even setup, it always made the car tighter. It drove to the limit of the front. Yeah, and so I believe that if you're going from options to the primes, I believe it's not gonna be freer, I would think. But look, this is who knows. This is a learning opportunity for everybody. It'll be interesting to see what these teams say when they get done. Freer everywhere or just in and off. It's gonna be $1 million question. And it's no good. Free in. Keep that to yourself.
We mentioned earlier how fast Austin Dillon was, and teammate Kyle Busch. You take a look at the numbers for Kyle Busch at racetracks. 8 times he's won at Bristol. 6 times he's won here at Richmond. One of his better tracks, and he needs it. Kyle Busch looking for a win here in 2024 to keep a streak alive. 19 years he has won a race, and that is in jeopardy. I've heard him say that, yes, making the playoffs would be great, but getting a win in this year would keep that streak alive, which he holds over everyone that's ever been behind the wheel of a car in NASCAR. 19 consecutive seasons with a win.
And I got this team circled. I want to see, rarely do we get 2 weeks off. This is the longest break we've seen in NASCAR in quite some time. And so it's, does it allow this 8 to rejuvenate, refocus, something? Because not only has it not been a great year, it didn't start awful, but most recent, it has really tapered off. So, yeah, so, did the 2 weeks kind of recharge, refocus? Did they find something in car development, a combination of all 3?
and will be embedded with the 18th tomorrow during stage 2. And Dylan, you're right down there watching on this 18.
That's right, and they've actually made an engineering change as well. Vince Lynch is the new race engineer for Kyle Busch starting this weekend. So, if nothing else, those 2 weeks off were kind of a good opportunity for them to just reevaluate everything from car to the guys making the decision. So we'll see how that pays off for Kyle. The other thing too I thought was interesting was talking with Randall Burnett earlier, and he made the comment about how this practice session is valuable for Kyle just from a laps perspective. He kind of referenced how back when Kyle was always racing the Truck Series and the Xfinity and then the Cup all in the same weekend, that track time just helped Kyle kind of understand what he needs from the race car. It's an obvious point, but I think for Kyle, who is searching for just some speed or just some good luck, frankly, with this 8 car, having this full 45-minute practice session, they hope was going to be able to help them get a little bit closer to where they want to be for the race tomorrow. You know, it's hard to say this about Kyle Busch and Richard Childress for that matter, but they're going to have to be drastically better than they've been to win. I mean, they've got behind, and Steve, you've been part of it. I mean, we've all been part of just, you get behind, and this garage is so competitive. When they got you down, they're going to step on you and try to do everything they can to keep you down. And you just stand. It's just so hard to work your way. More of that without hurting. But drive off is probably the work issue. Like, if we got to work on drive off, get help entry, that would be great. So basically, loose in, tighten the middle, loose off. Pretty standard. But what he said, you know, he knows that already. So he doesn't bark on that. He said, hey, I could use a little bit of that more on entry. Meaning turn is the exit, right? And if you can help my exit and my entry, that would be a double win for me. So now as a crew chief, I'm thinking, okay, there's certain things that I think bias exit, some bias entry, and some probably affect them both the most. So I would kind of go to that thing, you know, that type of change first.
By the way, you notice the yellow Goodyear lettering and a little scuffing on both of the wheel wells there. He got into the wall, so obviously a little bit closer than he wanted to get. There's Daniel Suarez in the 99, and it has been, I would say, probably one of the best 2 weeks for Daniel Suarez as he was enjoying the Olympic break. He got married, and then just this last week, it was announced he'll be back for another season with Trackhouse Racing. So 2 great things happening for Daniel Suarez.
Won a race in Brazil. That's like a hat trick.
It's been a good 2 weeks.
We talked early in the session, right? So a little hint about these option tires. The 22 car, Joey Logano, he just put them on. He was about 25th fastest before, put tires on late in practice, and went to 18th. So that's with the option tire. So that tells me that there is speed in that option tire. This blast off speed right ahead of him is Gimlin. He's on his best lap was lap 45. He put from 16 forward. They all ran their fastest speed on lap 1, 2, 3, or 4. These guys 45, 44 on option. The other unintended thing that I believe it's doing is look at that camera in the upper right. See all the little specks of rubber? As I've been looking around the racetrack and looking at the onboard cameras, I see more rubber bouncing around. Like maybe that option tire. I mean, look right here. I mean, this is the front bumper of the 11. So, you know, our cameras, they'll self-clean. But these are the small things you don't think of. What kind of screens do you have on your brake coolant? Right. What kind of protection do you have in the radiator? Is there other areas of the car where a tremendous amount of rubber buildup will be an issue? This has always been a tire-wearing racetrack. But the way it wore, it didn't really seem like it filled the grills like it would in a place like Darlington. So who knows? There could be one more of the effects of this option tire.
And Steve, that's a great point. I mean, was it 2 years ago when this car made its debut? There was issues with rubber getting back in the rocker panels, and there was fires and things like that. It looks like there is more rubber that is potentially going to be getting into those openings, or possibility of it happening.
See Bubba Wallace in the 23, Tyler Reddick right behind him. Her 2311 teammates. Man, this is a fun racetrack, though. You mentioned teammates. I think whenever there's a change like this tire option, I think that's where teammates are so important, because when this practice gets done, they're all going to go sit down and they're going to have a conversation. And those conversations, we certainly look at data, certainly do all that stuff, but the gut instinct of your drivers, the gut instinct of the crew chiefs, things you can't measure, Steve, those things matter. And how you're going to change setups going into tomorrow's race, change, whatever changes you can make when you go from one tire to the next, when you put them on. All that comes down to decisions that isn't data based. It's based off of your instinct and your experience. And those meetings are when a lot of those things happen.
Just over 14 minutes remain in practice for the NASCAR Cup Series here. Austin Dillon still at the top of the speed charts. Bubba Wallace second. Christopher Bell third. Martin Truex Jr. fourth. Zane Smith in fifth. Carson Hocevar sixth. Chris Buescher seventh. Michael McDowell eighth. Daniel Suarez ninth. Ty Gibbs is still in 10th. Denny Hamlin 11. Chase Briscoe 12th. Corey LaJoie 13th. Justin Haley 14th. 15th for Ross Chastain. Eric Jones 16th. Todd Gilliland 17th. Joey Logano 18th. Riley Herbst 19th and Kyle Busch 20th. Tyler Reddick 21st, John Hunter Nemechek 22nd, Noah Gragson 23rd, 24th for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ryan Blaney 25th, Brad Keselowski 26th, Alex Bowman 27th, Daniel Hemrick 28th, Ty Dillon 29th, Harrison Burton 30th, Austin Cindric 31st, Josh Berry 32nd, Ryan Preece 33rd, William Byron 34th, Kyle Larson 35th, Chase Elliott 36th, Parker Retzlaff 37th, and that rounds out the full 37-car field for practice at the moment. So we'll see how much more that will change here in these final 14 minutes or so. Had some drivers run over 60 laps of practice, most of which have ran at least 30. Most of them have really ran more than 40, 45 laps. A couple of them right around the 30 marker. Ty Dillon's ran 35. Josh Berry had a later start. He's only ran 18. 36 for Kyle Busch, 29 for Eric Jones. So maybe more adjustments for those drivers with a lot less laps, making some shorter runs. Brett Whiteside Cyrus also welcome into the stream. Yeah, practice qualifying on the NBC Sports app here this afternoon. Olympics still going on USA Network currently. The race tomorrow night, though, will be on the USA Network, and the Truck Series race later this evening will still be on Fox Sports 1. And again, our coverage for the truck race tonight will begin at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That will be the regular season finale for the Craftsman Truck Series. So we'll have to watch that points battle throughout. Fourth to last race of the regular season for the Cup Series again tomorrow. Our pre-race will begin at 5:30 Eastern. We'll take another ad break here in the final just less than a dozen minutes of practice. The only good news I will say with the NBC Sports app, it is commercial free. Versus if it were on like cable television or something of that nature. So that is good. But we're going to get our last one for practice out of the way here, and we'll have qualifying coming up. Probably about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, consistently runs. I tell you what, I think this team is missing a little bit, Steve. Is I think during the race, like they qualify well, they take off fast, but it seems like during the race they don't get better. It seems like that other teams are able to maximize their car more during the race. When I look at that team, that's what I feel like that's their weakness is, once you have that track position, you got to stay ahead of the car setup. You got to stay ahead of changes. And I just feel like that's where they're missing it.
And I wonder if that's not just the experience of the driver. I think one of the hardest things, it starts with as a race car driver, first you have to have talent. Ty Gibbs has it, right? Everyone on this racetrack has talent. Then can you convey what you need with the car? That's one thing. But then like the next level, if you're in college classes, the 303 version of car setup is where do I need next run? Which direction is the track going? What do I need my car to do 100 laps from now, right? Like Jeff Gordon was so good at Martinsville because at lap 50, he could tell you if you were close enough for lap 250. He knew what 200 laps from now the car was going to drive like. That was amazing as a crew chief because you just listened to him and adjusted correctly. I don't blame Ty. That's an experience thing. You have to give him 3 or 4 or 5 years, and I think they will learn. That's what makes a guy like Hamlin so good and Truex so good, and then they kind of know where their car is going or what it's not doing that it needs to do. That experience factor playing in. Yeah, it looks like a race out there between the two different tire compounds, the new tires and old tires. You know, we're not giving you a great job of handicapping the field because it's next to impossible for me in real time to tell you who's good or not good. You know, I just don't know.
It is very difficult with different tires on, put them on at different times, all the traffic. It is very difficult to understand who's fast.
9.5 minutes left in this practice. And then qualifying, as we look at the 5 of Kyle Larson, who right now has the option tires on, the red lettering on the sides. But qualifying, they have to be on the prime tires for qualifying. And something historic could possibly happen today if Kyle Larson is able to win the pole. It would be the 4th short track in a row that he would win the pole. If he would do that, that hasn't happened for 40 years. The last person to do that was Jeff Bodine. And by the way, it was behind the wheel of the 5 car.
So what I will is you have the Hendrick car is 27th, 32nd, 35th, 36th. Now I know they waited to go on the racetrack, but you know, are they okay with their cars? Are they driving good and they just haven't been in position to put good lap time up? You know, their overall speed currently is not good, but it's like comparing apples to oranges to the guys that were out there right away. So this is one that we're going to have to really look at afterwards. And I'm really talking about my fantasy line. I know I'm going to put in my fantasy line.
So, Jeff, I got to ask you a question. And I don't know if you can answer correctly or not, but here's Kyle Larson, who went out on the prime tires first, put a bunch of laps on them. Now he's on the option tires, so the car is going to feel different, correct? What he's feeling right now. Then you're going to ask him to go out back on the prime tires and run the fastest lap he could possibly run. How difficult is that for these drivers that are doing it this way?
So I think that would be much more difficult for my generation of drivers, but this generation of driver, because of lack of practice, because of the way the normal schedule is, you just don't get much track time. You got to go out and lay a lap time down right now. I think it's just become second nature to them. I think it's difficult to do, but they do it every week, and they've just become so good at it. I think that they'll adjust right on the way.
Steve, as a crew chief, are you doing different adjustments based upon what tire is on the car?
Well, but you can only make certain adjustments. If it was me, I would like to know what the change in tire did for my balance, and then maybe pick either wedge or air pressure and see if I can counteract it, right? Because if Jeff's theory, and I agree with this theory, right? If the grippier tire, if the option tire goes a little faster and it gets a little tighter, well, then maybe you need a little bit freer air pressure, or just take a little bit of wedge out when you go to that red tire, because you're going to have to make those changes on pit stops.
Under 7 minutes to go in this practice session. When they started the practice session, they had a set of the yellow lettering, which is the prime, and a set of the red lettering, which is the option. So 2 sets of tires for 45 minutes of practice, and they could put them on whenever and run for however long they wanted to run. And it seems as though quite a few people have done different strategies as far as learning what each tire does and what part of the race they're going to try to utilize them.
That's the other thing is this track normally runs clean and green. We see a lot of green flag running here, green flag cycles, and we talk a lot about two led self to green flag pit stops because the way pit road entry and exit work, you run basically a half a lap while you're on pit road. So there could be a track that I think you could mix it up more. I can come up with 2 or 3 real good ways to use these option tires.
Yeah. Well, I saw you and Todd during the week. You kind of played out what you thought your strategy was going to be. You save them till the end of the race, right? I mean, that was
save them. If I'm a great car, I want to have them at the end of the race because there's no doubt there's fire off speed. And I think if you have to put that set on with 8 or 10 laps to go, if you don't have reds, you're going to be sitting in the water. I think you have to have a set of reds. But at the end of stage 2 is, can I get points? Can I save a lap? Like, where else can I have 2 sets of reds? The challenge is there's only 8 sets for the whole stinking race. That is not a lot of tires where you fall off so much in speed. So it hasn't been a problem because it's been green. But if we have a rash of yellows, Jeff, if this is a 7, 8, 9 yellow flag race, there is going to be high sale of Tums and Pepto-Bismol on top of the box.
There's 43, Eric Jones.
And like always, Rick, I'm going to wait and see who wins, and I'm going to tell you that's how I'd have done it. Just like that.
That's the strategy.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Told you.
Congratulations to Eric, celebrating their first wedding anniversary with his wife, Holly.
All right, Jeff, which car do you want to get in? Do you have a pick? Which one's the best?
I have no idea.
I don't
very
either.
very few times do we sit up here and watch practice and not have a definite okay, that's the best car. That's one of the. But today, it's very hard. So many cars on track. When they put tires on, when they went out on a racetrack, there's so many variables today that we normally don't see. And I do not have. Earlier in the day, I thought the 6 car of Keselowski looked really good. He's sitting there 26 fastest. So what am I talking about? But speed's really, really good. It is just a mess out there, and it's hard to differentiate.
Isn't that what we like, though?
I'm good with
There's
it.
not a clear favorite out here. We don't know. So that's why we enjoy racing, because when the race starts, we don't know who's going to surge ahead or who might have speed late in a run. Take a look back here at Bubba Wallace.
Oh boy.
My front lockup. That's not unusual at this racetrack getting into turn 3.
Big lockup.
Just the way the straight and the banking going into the corner, where they meet, and the setup of the race car, the left front tire gets really tight, and it's really easy to lock that thing up. You'll see it quite. It won't surprise me one bit qualifying to see several cars do that.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. out there in the 47. Did a little spring cleaning in the middle of the summer where Ricky was organizing his helmet collection. You have a helmet collection, Jeff?
I do. A lot of helmets.
You display it?
I do. They're set up in my house where we look at them once a year or so.
24 right there, the last car in line. Just a little bit ago on the radio, he was talking about how his car feels very close to how it did in the spring. I went back, he ran 7th in the spring, so because I'm trying to figure out how good difference they're looking for. He goes on to talk about how it's just not a very big window, and I think that's sometimes what you're looking for. A lot of these crew chiefs are very good at dialing their car into the right balance, but how big of a window is it? Is it like a knife's edge, where one little change, a cloud cover change, a set of tires change, and your good car goes bad? Or is it, a nice, big, flat, perfect zone? Like, how big's the bullseye? And when the bullseye is very big, that allows the driver to change his driving style, allows the crew chief to make some adjustments. When the bullseye is very, very small, you become a little gunshot. Half line of air, and you go from good to bad. One round of wedge, you go from bad to good. When he said the window's just not very big, it's more than just how fast you are. It's how drivable is the car. Maybe he's talking about setup. Maybe he's talking about driving. Maybe he means the window of entry speed. Hey, if I carry a little too much speed or do something different.
Last minute of practice.
All right, Steve, you asked me this 20 car. I look at what he did that last run on the option tires. He had about 40 laps on his tires. The last lap was a 25 flat. He's sitting there 3rd fastest overall. So that tells me that this car has good takeoff speed. It had good long run speed on that one.
Good on both tires too.
I'm not real sure, but that car to me, I just look at the data and then I watched the whole track. It looks very much under control, which wouldn't surprise me if this one wasn't one of them as well.
Well, Adam Stevens, Rick, you mentioned he's home after that injury during the off. He's liking the kind words that you've given his 20 car. Well, there you go. 45 minutes of chaos behind you, Rick. We're joining him here.
And as a crew chief, are you scratching your head or are you feeling good?
Well, right now as a crew chief, all I'm worried about is qualifying. I mean, no offense, but it moves too fast. We have 15 minutes to get these cars ready to go through qualifying. Group A and Group B will be back to groups. So I'm compartmentalizing and say, hey, we're going to worry about the race in a minute. Right now, we have to get qualified. And the difference between it doesn't matter our setup. If we qualify 5th versus 35th, that could be the entire weekend. So right now, all I'm focused on is the next 15 minutes, getting my car prepared for qualifying, grabbing the data, make sure, all these crew guys, they're gathering the data I'll look at later tonight. Because we see Gabehart right there is a guy who's focused on the task at hand.
We're going to go through the full practice results here as practice has just concluded. That's why the caution flag is displayed. Racetrack 4. Austin Dillon, after running 69 laps, had the fastest time overall, that 22.698. It was on his second lap overall on primary tires. Bubba Wallace fastest on the option tires with a 22.716, about 18 one-thousandths of a second slower than Dillon's fastest lap, and that also was on Bubba's second lap. He ran 80 laps total. Christopher Bell ran 86 laps. He was third quickest, looked like he had one of the better long-run speeds and was great on both tires. Martin Truex Jr., fourth fastest, Zane Smith fifth. Carson Hocevar sixth, Chris Buescher seventh, Michael McDowell eighth, Daniel Suarez ninth, Ty Gibbs rounds out the top 10. Denny Hamlin 11th, 12th for Chase Briscoe, Corey LaJoie 13th, Justin Haley 14th, 15th for Ross Chastain, Eric Jones 16th, Ty Gilliland 17th, Joey Logano 18th, 19th for Riley Herbst and Kyle Busch 20th. 21st for Tyler Reddick, John Hunter Nemechek 22nd, Noah Gragson 23rd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 24th, Ryan Blaney 25th, Brad Keselowski 26th, Alex Bowman 27th, Daniel Hemrick 28th, 29th for Ty Dillon, Harrison Burton 30th. Austin Cindric 31st, Kyle Larson 32nd, 33rd for Josh Berry, Ryan Preece 34th, William Byron 35th, Chase Elliott 36th, and Parker Retzlaff 37th. Retzlaff in the 66 for MBM this weekend, making his Cup Series debut. That is the only non-chartered entry car for this weekend. Most laps ran overall in practice. It looks like 95 laps were ran by Brad Keselowski in that 45-minute session. A couple other drivers to run 90-plus laps would include Chase Briscoe, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and I believe that's it for everybody that ran 90-plus laps. Large majority of the field, though, ran more than 70. The only drivers that ran less than 70 would be Chase Elliott at 65, Ryan Preece 65, Josh Berry 37, Parker Retzlaff 36, Ty Dillon 59, 60 for Hemrick, Kyle Busch 67, 69 for Herbst, 53 for Eric Jones, 49 for Haley, 63 for LaJoie, and everybody else ran pretty much 69 or more laps in practice. So again, a 15-minute breakdown period for teams to make their adjustments post-practice, and then qualifying will begin at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll see cars on the track, and you won't have to go anywhere. Again, that will be right here on this stream, and will also be broadcasted live over the NBC Sports app. Take another look at the point standings, maybe some other statistical leaders through the first 22 Cup Series races this season. We mentioned at the very start of the stream before practice began the race for the regular season championship. Currently, Kyle Larson is that point series leader, and he has the most wins this year with 4 as he won the most recent race at Indianapolis in the Brickyard 400. Most stage wins on the year is Christopher Bell with 9. Points leader Kyle Larson with 8 stage wins, so Larson does have the most playoff points total as of right now as well, especially if you can get those additional 15 for winning the regular season title. And he has ran one less race than everybody else, running for Cup points, of course, with missing the Coke 600 on Memorial Day weekend. As far as top 10s go, most top 10s on the season is actually Tyler Reddick. He has 15, has 3 more top 10 finishes than any other driver so far this season. And Reddick, honestly, up until that break that we had for 2 weeks with the Olympics, was the most consistent driver through the summer stretch of races. Look at these finishes he has had since the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte. 4th, 8th, 22nd at Iowa races, because after that 22nd place finish, he has finished 6th or better in the last 5 races. 6th at New Hampshire, 3rd at Nashville, 2nd at Chicago, 6th at Pocono, and 2nd at Indy. Yeah, he has been very, very fast. He's had a chance to win Nashville, Chicago. He was very, very close to getting a win in both of those races on the final lap. So a couple really ill-timed moves. Chicago overrunning the entry to turn 5, clipping the wall, took him out of a shot there, and had fresher tires on Logano. Got the second on the final lap, couldn't work his way around him, ended up losing another spot to Zane Smith there on the last lap as a result. But yeah, he was very close to winning a couple races there. His only win this season is at Talladega, but the speed has been there for Tyler Reddick. And the Toyota's looking quick out of the gate here this weekend for practice. So Reddick could be one of the favorites. But yeah, definitely wanted to spotlight him. He was on the must-have list for a lot of those closing races leading up to the 2-week break we had, and largely due to that reason. Some of the other drivers that have been right around as hot late in the regular season before this 2-week break, Kyle Larson. Obviously, he's got a couple more wins in the last 9 races. It seems like Larson is either up in the top 5 or he's getting into an incident and DNFing. 39th in the Chicago street race, had a wreck there. Iowa, he ended up getting in a wreck in an early restart in stage 3. So really, since he didn't run the 600, so we'll exclude that one. But yeah, since the All-Star break, Kyle Larson currently has 5 top 10 finishes, but 2 of his 4 wins have come there. Again, Indy a few weeks ago, and also a win at Sonoma. So look at like race winning speed, Larson's been there, but definitely not as consistent as Tyler Reddick. Another driver who's been red hot as far as consistency goes, and with wins to back it up, is Ryan Blaney. Blaney has been very close to winning like 4 races. He's got 2 wins since the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte. But if we look at Sonoma, 7th, 1st at Iowa. Unfortunately, 25th at New Hampshire for him with the rain race, but he was in the top 3 on that final restart, had gotten spun. Finished 6th at Nashville, 10th at Chicago, win at Pocono, and 3rd at Indy as well, as he led laps late in that race. So 2 wins in the last 6 races for Ryan Blaney. 24th at Gateway. He was leading on the last lap of that race as well. He's definitely been red hot. But, Larson Blaney have been red hot for speed every single week since the 600 weekend. So is Tyler Reddick, but Reddick's the one getting the finishes. Chase Elliott's been Mr. Consistency so far this season. It's the reason he is in the hunt for the regular season title. Much like Reddick, both those 2 drivers only 1 win apiece. Although Chase Elliott had dipped in performance just before the break, 18th, 18th, 21st, 9th, and 10th in the last 5 races there. And that has pretty much been the reason why him and Larson have gone back and forth, really since the 600 when Larson missed that race. These 2 have been trading the points lead back and forth a ton. Now at Pocono and Indy, 9th and 10th place finishes a lot better in the first 2 stages. A lot of stage points. You see 43, 36 points total in those races. And he did get top 10s at the end of it. Had a pit road speeding penalty late at Pocono in the final stop, and still came back to finish 9th. Arguably had the fastest car in that race. And Indianapolis still got a top 10 despite the pit exit lane violation, or the blend line violation that he had very early in the day on a tough track to pass on. So he's overcome the odds, and again, he's only 10 points behind Larson for that regular season title. So those are kind of like the 5 guys that have been red hot. I guess you could kind of throw Christopher Bell in there too. And I have Bell as one of my Championship 4 favorites just because he's been so good on the flatter, shorter tracks this season like Phoenix is. That's also why I have Ryan Blaney in my Championship 4 right now as well. See, Bell was red hot. He had 2 wins in a 5-race stretch between the 600 and New Hampshire, but since that 37th at Chicago, 12th at Pocono, it did balance out a 4th place run at the very least at Indy. Bunch of stage wins, obviously, on the season, so he's led a bunch of laps this year. Most laps led on the season, Kyle Larson with 763. Denny Hamlin, 772 for Hamlin. So Hamlin's led the most laps this season. Not that far ahead of Kyle Larson in that stretch. Larson, Reddick also tied for the most top 5s on the year with 9. One ahead of Hamlin, Keselowski, Bell, and Elliott, along with Byron Blaney, all have 7 top 5 finishes this year, so quite a few on that list. Playoff standings, 12 drivers are locked in with a win so far. 4 are above the cutoff line on points. The drivers locked in with wins of the 12, again, 4 for Kyle Larson, 3 for Denny Hamlin, William Byron, and Christopher Bell, 2 wins for Ryan Blaney, and everybody else with the win would have 1, which would include Chase Elliott with 1 win, Tyler Reddick with 1, Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, and Austin Cindric. 4 drivers on points above the cutoff line would include Martin Truex Jr., who's 108 points. Ty Gibbs is the next highest above the cutoff line. He's 11th in the driver standings and currently 42 points to the good. 17 points to the good is Chris Buescher in the number 17. And then Ross Chastain holds the last spot. He's 13th in the driver standings, but there's 3 drivers in the points that have a win that are locked into the playoffs below him, being Logano. Cindric will be 16th on the playoff grid. And that points deficit for Wallace is 7 back of Chastain coming into the weekend. 3 races ago, I should say, Wallace was over a full race worth of points out. Other drivers below the cutoff line more than a full race worth of points out, at least 80 or more back, would be Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, Todd Gilliland to round out the top 20 on the playoff grid. Qualifying order is now up on the screen. Again, group qualifying. For those of you that haven't watched qualifying much this season, wondering how exactly this works, top 5 from Group A, Group B will get a chance to re-qualify for the top 10 positions and go for the pole in round 2. Everybody that qualifies from 6 on back will be designated to a starting position based off the row, or the group, I should say, that they are in. All the Group A drivers will be starting on the outside lane for tomorrow's race. Group B drivers on the inside lane, again, based off of their finishing position 6 through 18 or 19. Again, outside lane for Group A, inside lane for Group B. But the top 5 from each group have a chance to requalify for their spot in the top 10. So 18 drivers here in Group A, and the first 9 to go out will be in this order. Ty Dillon will be the first car to qualify this afternoon. Riley Herbst second. Daniel Hemrick will be third. After that will be Ryan Preece, Justin Haley, Zane Smith, Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch to qualify for the Group A drivers. And they will get 2 laps apiece. All racetracks that are 1 mile or less in length with qualifying, you get up to 2 laps. You don't have to take the second lap. And with as much tire wear as Richmond has, if you lay down a really fast first lap, they're probably going to pull that driver into pit road in the hopes that if they make it into the top 5, they have 1 less lap on their tires come round 2. That could be a huge difference in who could go for the pole in the second round versus the first round. Robert Perkel, Earl Arnold Jr., Banana, Wade Zielinski, Trainskate 1024. Thanks for tuning in, Hopeful. Thanks for coming back. Some of the others that I didn't get to shout out. Got well over 100 people concurrently watching, 43 likes, so be sure to hit the like button if you have not done so. 107 votes have been casted already for who you think will qualify on the pole today. Pretty much tight between 2 options, and right now 40% of those 107 votes say somebody other than Hamlin, Larson, or Truex will qualify on the pole. We'll keep this poll open until we get through round 1 qualifying after all 37 drivers have made a lap, so we'll see if any of those 3 that are listed in the poll can make it into round 2, and we'll go from there. There we go. We're only 1 like shy of our goal already, and qualifying has not yet began. Any second now, we'll start to see Ty Dillon on the racetrack for qualifying. Again, 2 laps at maximum for qualifying. That would be for each round. So, yeah, like I said, any second. It was set to begin at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:31 right now. Sure, the NBC Sports app might be a little delayed compared to if this were on, television. A lot of loose rubber on the racetrack, that is for sure. Definitely don't want to get up into the marbles on that high side near the wall up the exit of the corners. I wonder if it's well, the temperatures aren't cooler. Slightly warmer day, of course, kind of similar to what we saw back at Bristol earlier this season, but this, of course, an asphalt surface to that of Bristol's concrete surface. James Martin in the chat saying bell for the pole. Got an interview with Joey Logano. Get to listen into that real quick.
So, what kind of read did you get maybe on what you've got? Yeah, I feel like we got a decent read on what we needed to find out, balance change and just overall lap time is what you're looking for to try to create a strategy for tomorrow. And then fires off faster and falls off harder. So that's kind of what everyone's looking for. It's going to change the strategy a lot. What it is, I don't know. That's for Paul to figure out. But it's definitely going to be a different Richmond race than we've seen. You always have to manage tires here, right? I mean, that's the name of the game. Is there a different strategy or approach to you as a driver as far as managing these option tires compared to how you manage the primaries? I think more from a strategy side. You always got to approach the run differently depending on how many laps you're going to run and those type of things. I think it's more or less when you put them on is it'd be the biggest thing. All right, thanks, Joey. All right, let's unlock all this conversation between tires. So we're going to look at 2 different teammates: the 11 of Denny Hamlin, the red graph, the green, the 19 of Mark Truex Jr. Now, if you look right here, this red graph, Denny Hamlin, this is the second run of both cars. The 11 starts on the softer, the option tires. He's faster. It's right here, Jeff. It's multiple tenths of a second. So if you kind of look where the 11's going, it's faster, faster, faster. I'm going to call it the same. And then it definitely trends slower out there towards the end, right? That's like lap, call it 33, 34, 35. So Truex gives up time early, but it looks like it's a consistent fall off. So the big question mark is what happens out here, right? What happens when we get to lap 50, 60, 70? Now, the way this race runs, you shouldn't have to run more than 70 laps on a set of tires. So what Rodney was saying is, hey, I think the Reds are fine. We should just run on them the whole time. But I think there's a definite crossover point. The question is it soon enough? Because in my mind, 36, 38 laps isn't soon enough. I'm going to make up so much ground here early on new tires, right? I'm going to make up so much ground right away that you're never going to run me back down in 40 or 50 laps. Those red tires into the final stage. I just think there's no way you could burn them early in the race.
So that to me is the question, right? No matter when they're faster, they fall off more, when are you going to put them on, right? That's going to be the most difficult decision. That's what Joey Logano said. He said, I'm not making that decision. Crew chief is, right? So you only have so many of them. You can only use them at the right time. And Steve's point is, for the guys that are trying to win the race, save them.
Absolutely.
Just run them in the second stage. Just run them in the last stage. But there's other people in this race. Bubba Wallace, we talked about his point battle. Suarez, Chastain, all Busher, those guys, Suarez has already run, but those guys, could they put them on and win a stage? Could they put them on to get stage points? That's where having these tires makes a difference, and it can completely change the strategy.
And Tim, I would have thought he would have had a smile on his face. He's top 10. So many great things have happened to him over these last 2 weeks, and yet he's looking a little grim there.
Well, Daniel might be focused on qualifying, which is up next. Rick was just saying you should have a smile on your face, a great kind of summer break for you, and then good on the speed charts here. But let's talk about those option tires versus prime. Did you get all of the questions answered that you were hoping for?
I don't know about all of them, but some of them, yes. Richmond is a very, very tricky racetrack. One of the most tricky racetracks that we have in this NASCAR schedule. And, we started with the...
Daniel Suarez interview. We get a commercial. I don't know if that happened on your guys' end too or not. All right. It's a few minutes behind. Definitely giving these teams more than 15 minutes to make some setup changes between practice and qualifying. So we'll take a quick break here before we get Ty Dillon on the racetrack. Actually, we'll wait on that because Christopher Bell's now with Dylan Welsh.
Your race for the mark. We're different for sure. So, it did seem like the Reds fell off a little bit more, but I don't know if we saw the benefit for, the front side being a little quicker. So, I don't know. Well, I was hoping to get answers out of this, and I definitely did not. So, we're probably leaving here a little bit more confused than whenever we went in.
Well, we've heard that from some others too. So if that makes you feel any better, Christopher, qualifying is getting ready to get going, guys.
Yeah, and if you tuned in and the drinking word was option, we apologize.
Well, you're not watching
Your
it anymore.
conscience.
You know, if the drinking word was option, then you didn't make it.
He mentioned getting ready for qualifying. It will be two groups once again. So even though it was one big group for the 45-minute practice session, we'll go back to two groups. They will have 2 laps and there will be 2 rounds. So the top 5 from each group will advance to the final round.
So we talked about the racetrack when it opened for practice, how it was faster early in the session. That's gone. Done. That is not the case in qualifying. Going out early at this racetrack, we haven't had is every car on racetrack at the same time in practice. I don't know how that will affect it, but if you look at history, Ty Dillon is going out in the very worst position he'd be going out first car on track.
Well, you see those lights up in the sky just starting to come on, a little bit overcast. I don't see how that history is going to change, Jeff. I mean, if I had to pick, later it's definitely going to be better.
23:21 is what he ran in practice. And I won't be able to tell you if it was a 23:21 on option tire or prime tire. But he goes 23:34 on his first lap.
There's a formula that's used where you finished last week, where you are points, what your speed was last week. That determines when you go out. And if you had a bad day last week, or a few weeks ago in Indy, the first thing you did on Wednesday when the email came out, where am I going out to qualify? You did not want to be these first 4, 5, 6, 7 cars.
I was pretty interested to see what, we don't get to see 2 laps on short tracks. And 23:36, he improved to a 33. I also was interested to see if they were shifting or if they could. Surely they're going to have to shift
Yeah,
both ends of the racetrack.
they were in
Riley
practice.
Herbst, behind the wheel of the 15. That's start number 4 on the season for Riley Herbst in the Cup Series.
At least stayed in 4th on the backstretch, 5th on the front stretch. Might only be a backstretch, front stretch thing. We'll see if he can stay in 4th this time as well.
And how about that win at Infinity car? What a race. That was he went and took it. He went and took that race. It was really fun to watch.
Across the stripe for the first lap, 23:42. Second lap, 23:42. So a little bit of pickup there for Riley on lap 2. Here's Daniel Hemrick.
The bottom a little bit there on exit. Kind of got up off the bottom, cost him some time. Here's the shift, staying in 4th gear, hitting the rev chip. Daniel was trying to have a nice quiet breakfast this morning until Rick called him out to all the wait staff.
I had nothing to do with it, but he did have a little bit of fun with the waitress, who, by the way, is coming to the race tomorrow. Doesn't know a lot about racing, and so when I pointed over to Daniel Hemrick and I said, "That's one of the race car drivers," she went over and said, "Oh, what's your name?" His response was, "Tyler Reddick."
Oh,
I thought you had the best response.
Yeah, so if you're Tyler Reddick, you're paying. So, look, I think we talked about it. Ty Dillon, first car on racetrack, he beat those other 2 guys.
agree.
We have not seen that before. There was no way Ty Dillon could beat those race cars, and he was able to do it. So maybe, Steve, a little bit cooler temperatures, and also all those cars in practice being on the racetrack at the same time. Maybe that neutralized it a little bit.
23:32 in practice earlier for Ryan Preece, and Priest's first lap of this qualifying session is a 23:28, so he's a little faster than what he was practicing, and he's right now the fastest in this group of the four that have gone.
The question is, what do we think a good lap is going to be? I feel like you're going to have to run, man, low 23s, high 22s to advance.
Probably
I would think.
mid 22s. Yeah.
Team for Priest.
I think you got to be in the at least. I actually think it's going to take like a 22.9 something to be in the top five.
22, 22.8, 22.7.
So now at this point, you can almost take a breath. You know you have another lap. Don't overdrive this spell. Although it's not getting any better.
Probably get pretty good pace in race trail.
The car's just free unless.
$23.43 for Haley. Lap 1, lap 2, sliding up to the line.
Not good.
23.65, so slowed down on his second lap. St. Smith starts out in the green. Now we're comparing to Haley, who's fifth.
Zane was just fastest in practice. So regardless of what tire he had on, he has a fast race car.
Well, he's going to be down. There we go. Now we're getting there. 23.11. Can he find a little pace?
I still think everyone that is not faster than this.
Comparing to Hertz now, as Smith bumped Haley out of the top five, and he's even faster than Hertz here. This is going to be a really good lap.
Yeah, now we're getting there.
He won second lap of 26.98.
So 6 cars in, and they've dipped below that 23-second mark. Austin Dillon was fastest in practice, and he was started out on the option.
I tell you, this car looks good. This car looks really, really good. Yeah, 22.79.
That's a huge improvement.
I think you're getting ready to see what the fast guys are going to run, Rick. I think this track is, to Jeff's point, he had this hope and the dream that it was going to be fair and that the same grip for everyone, but Richmond is rearing its ugly head. 79 on lap 1.
Yeah, a little slower on lap 2.
I was actually surprised with that 79. I thought they might shut it off and try to save a lap on the tires for the next round. That's one advantage of going late. You talked about that metric that kind of sets the running order. If you're in the last 5 cars and you pop into a position where you know you're going to advance, I would say even 1 lap on the tires helps.
Somebody watching, looking at this, saying, okay, well, the teammate just ran a 22.79. Would you put the same setup in? As we see Busch go 22.86.
Well, the truth is, you went right after him, so you really didn't have a chance to make an adjustment.
Right. And if it was only as simple as the same setup, man, watch Jimmy Johnson go by me for so many years.
Everybody, all drivers drive differently. They all have a different feel. You know, one guy can win with a setup, you put in somebody else's, and I'm talking about really good race car drivers, and they can't get around the racetrack with it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, it's actually, I love it because it is the human element, right? We aren't racing computers. Race car drivers. Now, there are certain parts of the race car I think should be put in there as fact that create the most downforce and the most grip out of the tire, but which tire has the most grip does change for each driver.
Corey got on the other side of that yellow line and wanted to upset the car a little bit. A good recovery here. I think there's some speed left in this car.
Dillon was never this low on the racetrack, by the way. He was 2-3 feet above that yellow line.
See, that time, Corey, he hit that corner much better.
Like this will be an improvement. Lap 2 for LaJoy.
Oh, Kiss the wall a little.
Moves him up to fourth.
I see hitting the wall and qualifying every week.
It's just too big of a gap between first and third. We always see these
I think it's
qualifying.
the third week in a row, or third race in a row. Corey LaJoie's hit the wall in qualifying.
I just don't know if they have the speed to stay inside the top five. I'm even a little concerned for Busch. Just have to see what everybody has for pace. I like Austin Dillon's lap, though. I think the 79 has a chance. You think Dallas is going to do it? I do. I think the 79 will put him in the top five. I think he's getting into fifth when he looks silly, but I think fifth.
Well, McDowell was sixth on his first lap at a 23:33. And still in the red.
You missed this end of the racetrack, too. It's not going to get better. Lane up.
Ten have gone, and still fastest is Austin Dillon. He's 79.
For a long time on the backstretch. That tells me you got a great run off 1 and 2.
All right, this knocks down.
Just behind Busch.
Pick up on lap 2.
Tires low. Yeah, they're wearing, they're losing grip. 89 and a 90. I would say it's pretty consistent.
So Gibbs is third. Denny Hamlin, the Virginia native. Hometown, less than 20 miles from here. Barely in the chip, but in the green, losing a little of that on exit.
Yeah, Carlo really tightened the middle down there, just waiting on the fronts to work. That lap is not going to be good enough.
I'll tell you what, though, Steve, this racetrack, it is not doing tonight what it's done over the last several years as far as just getting much, much better as it goes. I mean, these are two really good race cars just gone. And Gibbs and Hamlin.
He made adjustments this time, though.
Definitely better.
Oh, yeah.
Second fastest at a 22:85.
We talk about experience. There it was. Danny got a good 1 and 2, went down in 3 and 4, coming to the white, and it did not work like he wanted, right? It looked to me like he got tight in the middle. Then the next time through, you saw the big chunky green compared to his previous lap. That's that experience. That's what makes a driver so good at these racetracks, instant adjustment. Now, Noah Gragson on a great lap here. Oh, missed the bottom there. Can he continue the speed off?
Lost second.
So now can he adapt? We know the speed was there. Can he work into turn 3? He's got to find the bottom of turn 3. I still think he's okay. He gave up a 1/10 down here. Got to get to the bottom. No. Same issue again. He improved it. No, he didn't actually. He ended up running the same lap time, basically. I've had Dillon in 5th. Dillon's going to be the fastest guy here. I just thought the track would keep picking up.
I did too. Look at Chastain. He's coming to the green in the second lane. See a lot of guys, second lane, but leave on the bottom coming to get the green. He ran the entire time up in the second grade. A lot of very good laps.
It's not working for him. 0.3 of a second off of Gregson right now. Half a second.
Now the question is he throw it away lap 1? Does he just say, you know what? I know I can't do it lap 1. Our tire pressures are set for lap 2. Everything we're going to do is for lap 2.
3 and 4 was much better than his 1 and 2 on that first lap. Still struggling over here. This team can't afford to run badly.
No.
Only 7 points ahead of Bubba Wallace. 10 points behind Chris Buescher, racing for the playoff spot. It's not what they were looking for.
Back there in the mess.
All right, so here's the first Penske car coming out. Remember, all those cars went out late in practice, so they looked slow on the time charts, but they were better in race pace than they were just one lap. So a lot of information will come back from this car to those other Penske's.
I actually think there's a lot of time to be gained versus Gregson because he just got so loose into 3 with about the same time in 3 and 4.
The 92 for Cindric has him 6th on his first lap and still in the red. And that's not going to be enough on lap 2. Really close. 22.99 from 22.92 on his first lap, and Cindric is 6th.
Can't say enough about RCR. We talked about needing a big reset over the 2-week break. Austin Dillon, top of the chart. Kyle Busch, 3rd. And this is leaps and bounds over kind of what we've seen. And I'm comparing they were good race trim as well, right? So, big gain. And it's been all the way back to Talladega in the spring since these last, both of the drivers made the final round. We'll see if they'll be able to do it today as Bubba Wallace goes to the top of the 7th. There you go. Cut it off. Save that lap on the tires.
Only 2 cars left to go behind him, so they know they're locked in the top 5. They know they're going to advance to the final round.
Kyle Busch needs one of them. He needs to beat one of these final 2.
They're holding Chase Elliott. He was supposed to go.
I believe they held him because when Bubba Wallace
Slight buffer here. Might have to exit out and try to go back into it again. Yeah, that looks like it's exactly what I'm going to have to do. Log out of the NBC Sports app, try to log back in. Probably going to give me an ad right away again, I would imagine. But... All right, so Chase Elliott just qualified. He went to the top of the speed charts with a 22.655 on his first lap. Obviously didn't run a second, locking himself into the Fast 5. And that will bump out Ty Gibbs, putting Kyle Busch on the bubble, with the last driver to qualify here in Group A being Tyler Reddick.
cars.
So he's thinking about waiting in practice. He picked up well over a second from his fast lap on those yellow Goodyears from earlier. So that's...
And you mentioned it. That is the fastest lap. We know Austin Dillon was on the option tire when he turned the 22.69 that he did in practice. That 22.65 on the prime tires for Chase Elliott.
I feel like I have given the commentator jinx to Kyle Busch too. Talking about both RCR cars in the final round, and here Tyler Reddick is trying to...
And they have made an early call there, Steve.
You did Rick Allen, but I
No,
don't.
that's not true.
But
Rick Allen.
let's see what this is right here. Can he knock Chase Elliott off? Right now, it's looking pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, this is a no-brainer.
That's a huge lap for Reddick.
All right, we're good. We're good. Come on.
22.54.
Wow.
Hell yeah. But back to Busch. If you would have told him 2 weeks ago, hey, you qualified 12th at Richmond, he'd been all right with that.
I agree.
Hey, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
We can get done what we need to do, right? So, yes, disappointed, didn't make the top 10, but he's going to start 12. All right.
Well,
And Bubba Wallace standing by with Dillon.
Ends up 3rd in this first group, so we'll fight for the pole here in just a little bit. Do you have a 54 in your car to compete with your teammate? That's a pretty good lap.
It is a good lap. I don't know where he pulled that out of. Wow. It's a good job for everybody at 2311. Both cars, top 5 here, go for shot at the pole. It's always good. Come here, Richmond with speed. It's good to just come off the break, and everybody's got their heads in the game, and we're working hard. So practice was really well for us in our Lidos Toyota Camry. Got a little bit to find in qualifying. I didn't like my first lap there, but it was just good enough. So
Second lap will be money for the next one. Just got to hit your marks and not overdo it, not overthink it, and it's like riding a bike. Just
What?
faster.
This place was good to you last year too. You guys ran really strong here. What about what your race car is doing at a place where it is so hard to kind of be good everywhere? What does your car do well?
Yeah, just gets through the corner really well. I'm trying to be as vague as I can. I don't know if the competition's listening, but it's fast down 2 straightaways and fast through 2 corners. So that's what you really need. But it's just a matter of being around the right people, listening to Denny, everybody, JGR. We struggled when we showed up here as a team in 2311. I struggled and hit it really hard. Had the debriefs, had the tough talks, and found our way. And it's been good to show up here with speed. So I've had a lot of excitement for the last 2 weeks showing up here with some speed, and we got it.
All right, they're another one of those cars that's in the playoff battle, so starting up front always helps, Kim.
And Dylan, one of the fast cars also in Group A of qualifying, Chase Elliott. Man, quick speed out there. As you look at round 2, you know what you have in your car, you know yourself. Can this be a pole-winning effort?
Yeah, I think so. This place is so weird. Just the feel in the car and what it equates to in lap time don't ever seem like they go together or make sense. So, yeah, I thought our Coca-Cola Chevy, it's kind of weird to say. I haven't gotten used to that, but, we'll see. I feel like our balance could have been a little bit better right there, but it was nice to do it in one lap. So that's an advantage for sure. Hopefully we can take advantage of that, right here.
We'll see what Chase Elliott has in round 2.
I told you it wasn't natural. Even Chase isn't going to figure it out yet.
Do you think Jeff Gordon is comfortable saying Coca-Cola? I mean, that guy's been with Pepsi forever.
I know, but folks been around the sport forever. They moved over. It's a good looking paint scheme, I have to admit. And I think what he said is very telling. I mean, look, I've had a lot of paint cars here, but Gordon was my driver once. We had like a 4-second lead, and he went on a 3-lap rampage about what was wrong with our car. And we were leading, and he wasn't wrong. That's everything he was doing it correctly. It just what Chase is talking about, Jeff. It's some tracks you go in there and you're like, that was it. That was a great lap. I'm not sure that maybe Tyler Reddick seemed to be pretty happy, but he was the only one.
Well, we talked about drivers that like different fields, right? So, this is just one of those racetracks that Chase Elliott's just like, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Like, what do I need here to film? Like, it just doesn't make sense to him. Another driver would say, yes, I know exactly what I need. And it's just, look, this stuff's difficult and there is no symptom. Like, everybody feels something different.
Marco Retzloff behind the wheel of 66.
That was a pretty good
Making
lap.
his F Series start. And then we see the 21 of Harrison Burton. That Dex imaging. The hood, a little kick out there as he came off a 2.
It looked like the left front got below the yellow line, maybe turned better than he expected in the middle. You kind of try to chase that line. Like you see right there, he gave himself an extra 8 or 10 inches and it drove right back to the yellow line. That looked pretty good.
Yes, now can
96.
he fix that over here and make the second lap better?
Exactly, right. If it ran in 96, can you run something in the 80s? Remember, an 85 advanced in round 1. I think the track's better, so I think it's going to take more than that. This lap not as good. Obviously, the tires are air pressure combination of 2.
Does Harrison feel more pressure when he comes to a racetrack that his dad had success on?
I don't know. Only won here once.
Okay.
I wasn't great here. I lost a lot more.
Well, because you're a Virginia guy.
Even I had the same strategy one night.
You did.
Like we both were going to win. I think we finished 30th or something.
We both needed gas, so there's no way it would go green. Guess what? We pitted, I think, like 9 to go, running 1-2.
Yes.
It's a long ride home. Great lap. Josh Berry, look at this.
Long on the chip, too.
Yeah, here we go. And gaining time. This is going to perhaps battle Reddick as the fastest lap of the day. Yes, sir. 49.
Wow.
And a 22.49 for Josh.
Berry's been good on short tracks this year.
After it cools off, this is absolutely what we see time and time again here. Question is, Berry is a half a second faster than Harrison. Next car out. So we're going to have to give credit to this 4-car. Track is one thing. Great cars are another. And Josh Berry in this 4.
49 on there.
I was a little surprised he didn't shut. That proves that Rodney, look, he knows this as well as anybody. He isn't sure if 49 is going to be good enough. If he was, he'd shut the car off.
Yeah.
Right? So with that many cars still to go, you just don't know what the track has.
Even though that's faster than anybody has run, he doesn't know what will be this group. What the speed will be for this group. Eric Jones, you see him 0.3 of a second off of what Berry ran. But even that, 0.3 of a second, is a 22.84.
Still 4/10. You know, when you go out and you're that much quicker than you know Eric Jones, right? I mean, it's a great.
That's why he aborted. Got loose in off the lane. He knew there was no sense to keep running.
So he talked to my teammates, and you know, there's this teammate going right behind him. So no information, not enough.
See Motor Club camp this week too. So with upper executive movement. Bobby Kennedy now, I think, was named general manager. Longtime racer was at Michael Waltrip Racing. I hired a new competition director to run the engineering. So Legacy switched to Toyota this year. Jimmy Johnson involved in. Now we're starting to see some personnel changes. Which, like, you know, it's people's lives when you talk about personnel changes, but I just have to believe the 42 and the 43, they're just not as good as they want to be. They want to get faster. They want to continue to improve. So they're making changes within the organizations.
Second lap's a little better, I think, for Nemechek. Not enough to knock Barry off, but could move him up the grid a little bit.
Lost quite a bit there in 3 and 4.
Nope, did not.
22.99 for John Hunter Nemechek. So now we see Joey Logano on the clock. Comparing the fifth now. That's where you see 4/10, almost 0.5 of a second. Yes, now half a second faster. And that's a 22.65 for Logano. Paul Wolf doesn't feel comfortable enough in a 65 to think that that might make it.
Yeah, I would next round. Yeah, I wouldn't either with the 49 in front of me. That lap wasn't better.
Chase Briscoe will be next to be on track. As Logano's going to roll all the way back to pit road. Another one who's taking advantage of maybe a little bit more space through 3 and 4 when he came to the green flag.
We thought Briscoe had a good car at race trails. Did not get through one very well.
Lost a little bit there from center of 3 and 4, but gaining it back on corner exit. And so third fastest on his first lap at 22.83.
Let's see if the tires will continue to grip down here.
Lost a little bit of it in 22.80.
It wasn't picked up on that second lap. It all came in 1 and 2. You actually lost a little speed at 3 and 4, but 1 and 2 was certainly better.
Here comes William Byron. Pairing now to Harrison Burton in fifth. And almost 0.3 of a second now faster than Burton. Be a pretty good lap for William Byron. His first lap is a 67.
I think he's going to be a better that lap. Just didn't roll through 1 and 2. Didn't roll the bill very well.
A little bit better through 3 and 4, but not enough to improve 22.67.
Key to speed here, Rick, is in 1 and 2, the radius is so much tighter on the exit of 2 than it is the exit of 4. So down here, Alex Bowman right here needs to have his car pointed. Because the car points there, then you can leave straight. You can be in the gas and leave straight off of 2. Look at the difference in the exit of 4. The track's much wider. Track opens up. You can use a lot more of it.
He tried to. Got to groove up. Goes fourth quick on his first lap, 22.72. That bumps Jones out of the top 5. Briscoe now on the cutoff number. .72 is still the fastest. He slows down just a bit on his second lap. Here comes Mark Truex Jr. Starts off in the green. Three and four. So dip down potentially into the 60s. 54 for Mark Truex Jr. Second fastest lap turn. But he's going to stay in it. Well, they call it off very late.
That's interesting. What's interesting, there's a second car on the track. Keith is coming down the front stretch.
It's going to be all right.
I'm assuming they just knew the second lap wasn't going to be faster, right? So it's not only qualifying, if you make the top 5 using those tires the second time, but also in the race, you might have to use these tires. I just don't know that 54 is going to make it.
Buescher's first lap, his second fastest, so that bumps Truex down a 52 for Buescher.
I think I'm with you, Jeff. I think what they saw is his 1 and 2 was not tracking fast enough for Truex, or at least that's the decision they made.
And so why put more laps on the tires in case you do have to use them tomorrow night?
I mean, think about this. You know, the top 3 are faster. There's a chance that all 5 will be faster than the fastest in the first round.
I think the track's got better.
Oh, no.
Yeah, track time's definitely cooling down as more shade covers the grandstand area of the racetrack, especially on the front stretch. Exit of turn 4, entrance of turn 1 areas. Mostly cloudy, I would say, for the forecast as well, which could factor into that. We also saw similar track conditions, of course, in practice. Brad Keselowski is now the next car on the racetrack. After Bad Brad, we'll have Daniel Suarez, or rather Ricky Stenhouse Jr., then Daniel Suarez. Carson Hocevar, Todd Gillen, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Larson. 19 cars in this Group B. Again, top 5 advance into round 2 with a shot to go for the pole. And as of right now, Barry's time of a 22.493 is the fastest we have seen today, and of course in this second round. And we saw a few drivers already here in Group B be faster than any driver from Group A. The top 3 times Barry, Busch, or Truex for Group B, faster than Reddick's lap in Group A. Reddick was first overall there. And a lot of the Group B drivers running their fastest laps on lap 1. It was kind of an even mix in Group A as to whether the first or second lap was quicker. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. now on the racetrack. Keselowski 9th quickest with a 22.886, and his second lap was his best. Stenhouse off of turn 4 completes his lap. 22.974 on lap 1 for Stenhouse. He'll wrap up lap 2 now with a 23.008. So quicker on lap 1. Ricky 11th of 13 for Group B. 5 drivers to go. Right now, William Byron is on the bubble with a 22.672. Average lap speed for Josh Berry of 120.037 miles per hour is the target speed to try to catch. Again, that is the average for his fastest lap. Lap 1 for Dan, the fast 5, a 22.811 for Suarez. Slightly better start to the second lap. Might be a little quicker on lap 2, but it's not going to be quick enough to get into the top 5. Yeah, a little bit quicker for Daniel on lap number 2. He bumped up 1 position, but he's still out of the top 5. 22.7 more positions, 1 more position. Really, it's an extra row, so it's like 2 positions. Because all these Group B drivers will be starting on the inside lane outside the top 6. Or top 5, I should say. 6th on back. Carson Hocevar had good speed in practice. He was 6th overall. We'll see what he can do for qualifying. He's qualified top 10 several times this season. Trying to beat Byron's 22.67. He's a couple hundredths off on the tracker through turns 3 and 4 in his first lap. Should get him close. Hocevar's first lap 7th. 22.742. And ending up a little bit slower on his second lap by over a 1/10. So Hocevar will not make the Fast 5 for Group B. He'll remain in 7th. Not a bad qualifying effort, though, for the rookie Carson Hocevar. 4 to go. Todd Gilliland, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, in that order. Gilliland on track currently. And that will lock Josh Berry into the Fast 5, by the way. Gilliland in the green, at least getting into turns 1 and 2. Couldn't throttle back as quickly as Byron. Picked up some time on the back straightaway. But definitely losing time through the center of the corner on both ends of the racetrack. 9th on lap 1 for Gilliland. 22.769. And at the end of lap number 2, not any quicker, slower. 9/100ths of a second slower on lap 2 for Todd Gilliland. So now here's Christopher Bell coming off a 4th place finish at Indianapolis. He's got a couple poles already this season, trying to go for yet another. Tracking in the green through turns 1 and 2. Couple thousandths of a second down the back straightaway back in the red. Looking for a pickup at speed through 3 and 4 to knock Byron out of the top 5, and he does it. Bell to 4th on lap 1, 22.646. He's going to run a second lap, it looks like. Trying to pick up a little bit more time through turns 1 and 2. Not as good as his first lap. And overall, lap 2 will not be as quick for Christopher Bell. Got some of that time back in 3 and 4, but his first lap was good enough to at least get him to the top 5 for now. Top 3 on the leaderboard are locked into the Fast 5 of Barry, Buescher, and Truex. 2 on the bubble currently. Oh, looks like a glove. There's a glove on the racetrack.
Did they give that back? I bet not.
I bet not.
Keep it. No, what do you do? One glove.
It's going to be Blaney and Larson still to go to determine the 5 out of Group B. And remember, Larson, if he does get into the top 5, Larson has won the last 3 poles on short tracks. And that 4th one is big because the only person who's won more than 3 consecutive is Jeff Bodine. He actually ended up winning 5 consecutive short track poles. But that was back in the mid-'80s. So it's been a long time since anybody has been able to accomplish that feat. But this is Ryan Blaney first, who's coming out for his qualifying effort.
Just remember the weekend he had in Iowa, we went on to win the race. Now, this isn't exactly Iowa. Iowa's much faster and bigger, but it has kind of a lot of similarities for me, right? I think
there are similarities here, but Ryan Blaney historically not very great at Richmond. He's been better in the next-gen era and actually qualified on the pole here a couple years ago, won the first stage from the pole, but historically not great track for the 12, at least in the Cup Series. Lap 1 for Blaney, 6 with a 22.671. Just 19 one-thousandths of a second off his teammate Joey Logano for 5th. So he's going to need a pickup on lap 2. pacing on this lap, wrapping the yellow line on the front end. It does not look to be quicker. Again, very few drivers have been faster on lap 2 than lap 1. Blaney picks up a little bit in 3 and 4, but not enough. So 6th for Ryan Blaney, just going to miss out on the Fast 5 this weekend. And it's up to Kyle Larson, who is in his quest for a 4th straight pole in a short track. Handful of pole awards already this season for Larson. And trying to add yet another one to the list. Larson in the red right now as he tries to get into the Fast 5. It's going to be between Joey Logano and Kyle Larson for this final spot. No other Hendrick car here from this group is in the Fast 5. Chase Elliott did make the Fast 5 from Group A, but for Group B, Byron Bowman are currently 7th and 9th. Larson 8th on lap 1 with a 22.686. Lap 2, 3 and 4. Kyle Larson won't even get a top 10 starting spot. Hendrick Motorsports looking a little off so far this weekend through practice and qualifying. Elliott picked up in qualifying, but not the case for Byron, Larson, and Bowman. So Larson 8th. That means he will be starting on the inside of row 8 for tomorrow's race, which would be the 15th place starting position for him. So Josh Berry, despite being the 3rd car to roll out for qualifying from Group B, posted the fastest time from this group. So he's going to have a pretty long cooldown period between his laps here versus his laps in round 2. Fast 5 from Group B, Josh Berry, Chris Buescher, almost said James Buescher. So again, Josh Berry, Chris Buescher, Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell, Joey Logano. That's the Fast 5 from Group B. Group A's Fast 5 was Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, Austin Dillon, and Denny Hamlin. So it looks like 4, I'm doing math wrong here. 5 Toyotas, 3 Fords, 2 Chevys will make up the top 10. Josh Berry standing with Dylan Welsh.
And that was a tough group. There was some pretty good cars in that group, so I was worried that would make it. So obviously it worked out to be the fastest there, but I wish I had one last lap on my tires, but I still think we have a really good car and just need to go hit more good corners.
You've been good here in your 2 starts. Rodney always gives good cars or brings good cars here. But this place changes a lot, even from spring to summer. So what is it that you guys seem to, kind of have that works consistently here?
Yeah, practice was kind of weird. In the spring we raced really good, but didn't qualify good. And then practice, it was, there's a lot going on with all those tires. Our transponder didn't work the first run, so we really weren't sure on how we were charting it out. So, but I don't know, the cars felt pretty good. I think we made some good adjustments there before qualifying. And like I said, now we're just going to go try to do it again.
And it's all on the line here for Josh Berry. Going to go after the pole in just a minute.
All right. So you can see the 10 drivers on screen. Again, that will be going for the pole. That is not the exact order in which they will qualify. It is listed on our screen on the raw feed in numerical order by driver car number. The first driver who will go out to qualify will be Denny Hamlin, as he was 5th in Group A. After Hamlin will be Austin Dillon, then Bubba Wallace, then Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick. So that will be the first 5 to qualify in that order. And the second 5 would end up being Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., Chris Buescher, and Josh Berry. Berry will be the last to qualify. So again, tomorrow's Cup Series coverage on the USA Network, but our coverage will also begin at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So 5:30 p.m. Eastern start for both the pre-race on the USA Network as well as our pre-race coverage right here on KRC. Our Truck Series race later tonight will begin at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So again, 7:30 tonight we will have flag-to-flag coverage for the 250-lap Truck Series race at Richmond. That will be the regular season finale for them. We're going to end the chat poll. 178 votes were casted. Somebody other than Truex, Larson, or Hamlin for the poll was voted by you guys. Larson, the only one of those that missed the Fast Five. Truex, Hamlin will have a shot to go for the poll. And here is Martin Truex Jr.
Different. They're a little bit different. We're gonna try to make an adjustment, go a little bigger, but we'll see what happens.
This cloud cover is rolled in. At the start of the session, it was pretty sunny, and it's not sunny right now. So that of course helps as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, just picking the rubber up from practice, and then with it cooling off, you see it just keeps getting faster and faster. So hopefully we can get our best pro camera to turn just a little bit better and not be too loose. And
Dylan, Chris Buescher, the defending winner of this race, is going to challenge for the pole in round 2. What's it going to take to be the fastest in the field?
yeah, it was the heck of a start for us. So really proud of that one. But I was fast off before Mustang worked hard in practice. We got a lot going on with reds and yellows and cloud cover now. So I really like what we had there. If we can duplicate that, plus just a tiny bit, we'll be in really good shape. I was really happy with balance. Work on just a little bit of turn across the middle, and we'll be in really good shape.
Is this a track that demands perfection when it comes to qualifying?
It's a sneaky one. I've had so many bad weeks here. I'm the worst person to ask for advice. We've had a handful of good ones in the last couple of years, but I'm still learning this place. So yeah, qualifying has been very difficult. This is already, no matter what, this is by far a big improvement for qualifying for this team. So yeah, this has not been our strong suit. So I'm proud of that right now. Now we had to go to work to a much better spot, regardless of what's getting ready to happen now.
Dylan, sounds like this team already happy with their effort, and we haven't even got to round 2.
Let's see what Christopher Bell's got in round 2. So he ended up 4th in this first run. So where can you be a little better? Where do you want to be a little better?
Well, I think right now the odds are stacked against us. Just going out late in Group B, our tires are going to be the hottest, and this is the place where it really matters. So I don't know that we're going to be able to compete for the front row, but making the second round is a much improved effort from what we've had really all of the short tracks this year, and even going into last year. So short track qualifying has not been good to us lately, and to make the second round is really good. Hopefully we can get a couple cars here and start better than 10.
With all of the different variables on the table tomorrow, how does starting further forward help make some of those decisions potentially a little bit more straightforward tomorrow?
I'll be honest, Dylan, qualifying here at Richmond is probably one of the least important tracks on the schedule, just because you do have so much strategy. You pit so many times that track position's a little bit easier to get here than it is other places. It's 400 laps, so it's a really long race. The biggest thing is pit stall selection. And we haven't qualified good here in the past, and we've been having really bad pit stalls and getting trapped, boxed in, or having to come around guys. So the second round qualifying effort will allow us to get a better pit stall and hopefully make up some ground on pit road.
It all makes a difference for sure. Thanks, Christopher.
All right, so they're highlighting the point standings once again. Currently, NBC Sports app is where you can watch qualifying. Round 1 action already in the books. Final round qualifying will begin here shortly, and then that will be the end of this stream, followed by the Truck Series race later tonight. We'll take a quick break before we get into the final round. You're listening live on KRC to Cookout 400 qualifying at Richmond. Ernest JGR Linden, thanks for tuning in. Michael Belcher, welcome to the stream. Kevin, NASCAR Penske Cup Series Racing, Frank Powers, some of you that I didn't see in the chat earlier that have tuned in late. Dylan Clark, Jojo, thanks for tuning in. Many others that are watching, thanks for tuning in. If this is your first time to the channel wondering what this is, so this is a daily NASCAR content channel. We have live commentary streams every NASCAR race weekend for Cup, Xfinity, truck races that I don't go to in person, as well as Cup practice and qualifying. So we will have full flag-to-flag coverage for tonight's truck race, again at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and tomorrow's Cup race at Richmond at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, I will be at Michigan for the Cup Series race next Sunday, so there will be a race highlight video uploaded from the grandstands, usually ranging between 20 to 25 minutes, kind of that sweet spot. All the race highlights from that one, from my seats, for any of those races I go to in person. I still plan on doing live commentary for the Xfinity Series race next Saturday. I'm only going to be there for the Cup race, and the hope is to try to get practice and qualifying also commentated on the channel as well. That would be Saturday afternoon, before the Xfinity race, of course. So that's kind of an update for next weekend. But as far as this weekend, of course, usual programming here. And some video game stuff during the week as kind of filler leading up to the following race weekend. Just starting up a NASCAR 07 season playthrough there. Our Daytona 500 will be on Monday evening when we start that season. So a lot of big things here on the channel over the next week or so. On the road to 6K subscribers. And be sure to hit that like button if you haven't yet. I know we've hit our goal of 50 likes for the stream already. Currently at 73. We've got well more than twice that many people that have been watching this qualifying coverage for quite some time now. So let's see if we can get up to 100 likes here before the end of the stream and double our original goal. Again, just like round one, you get 2 laps to try to set the quick time for qualifying. It looks like the sun's back out on the racetrack. Clouds are starting to cover the track quite a bit more, especially in Group B qualifying. But now before this final round begins, the sun is shining through. Again, Denny Hamlin will be the first driver to hit the racetrack for his qualifying lap. Followed by Austin Dillon, Bubba Wallace, Chase Elliott, and Tyler Reddick. Hamlin in his car, getting ready to go out there. Just like with the first round, the Group A drivers will set up the outside lane for this race, minus the front row starting spots. Front row starting spots will be the fastest 2 times from each group. So either group driver could obviously try to go for the pole. Hamlin on track currently with his warm-up lap, finishing it up through turns 3 and 4. And the first lap was the quickest for all the Fast 5 drivers through Group B. A lot of sun on the track. Hamlin not going to like that at all. That could be a factor in how good or bad this lap time could be for Denny. Track definitely going to be a little bit slicker for him. Had a couple laps, of course, on his tires already, but that would be the same for pretty much everybody in the field. Very few of these drivers actually ran just 1 lap of qualifying. Hamlin with a 22.850 on lap 1. Trying to pick up on his second lap. That's a 118.162 mile per hour average on that lap. Hamlin wrapping up his second qualifying lap of 2 off turn 4. And a little over a tenth slower for Hamlin on lap 2. Definitely don't think that's going to be the time to beat. As we'll see what Austin Dillon will have next. Dillon starting his timed lap, his first one at least. Dillon was fastest in practice earlier today and made it into the Fast 5 through qualifying. So he's got a shot to go for the pole. Lacking a little bit behind what Denny Hamlin put down on Hamlin's first lap. We'll see if Dillon can pick up on lap 2. Through turns 1 and 2, a lot better on the second lap for the 3, but he's still tracking in the red compared to where Hamlin ran. So both laps are not going to be as quick as the 11 for the 3 of Austin Dillon. And he actually lost more time through 3 and 4. He was a couple hundredths of a second slower on lap 2. We'll have to wait and see exactly where Dillon will end up in qualifying. 3 more drivers still from Group A to go out there. Bubba Wallace is currently on track. Toyotas look pretty quick. Wallace also fast in practice. Now, he was the fastest of anybody on the option tires in practice earlier today. Again, a mix of primary and option tires this weekend. And teams had 1 set of each for that 45-minute practice session. Wallace third on his first lap, 23.020. Couple hundredths off of Hamlin rolling into turn 3 on lap 2. And a little bit of a drop off the exit of the corner there. Wallace did pick up in his lap time, but he did not pick up position-wise on the leaderboard. 22.961 on his second lap. A little over a tenth off of Hamlin's pole time currently. Chase Elliott, who was second fastest in the Group A qualifying session for round 1, leads him to be the second to last driver from that group to qualify here. 0.07 of a second off of Hamlin's time. Second for Chase Elliott on his first lap. 22.861, full tenth quicker than Wallace. Can he have a pickup on lap 2 like Bubba did? Really good through 1 and 2 so far for Chase Elliott. The second lap is looking quicker than his first, but it's not going to be quick enough. Hamlin barely holds on. 11/1000ths of a second. Hamlin still on the top spot. Elliott jumps to second with a 22.861. Did he just run an identical lap time on both laps? He did. That's insane. To the 1,000th of a second, Chase Elliott was just as fast on lap 1 as what he was lap 2. Put up a fight. Reddick, who was the fastest through Group A, trying to be the fastest for Group A once again. So you have to have a big pickup as he looks to be the slowest, at least through turns 1 and 2 of the 5 from this group. And yep, didn't pick up enough through 3 and 4. 22.981 for Reddick on lap 1. Lap 2 wraps the bottom a little bit better through turns 1 and 2. But still nowhere close to Hamlin's lap time. And slightly slower on lap 2 overall for Reddick compared to his first. So Reddick, who was fastest in qualifying for Group A, will be the slowest of the 5 in round 2 for Group A. So Reddick will be starting in the 10th place position tomorrow on race day. That chat poll, Denny Hamlin was one of the options for the poll. I gotta scroll back up to see how many percentage of you picked him. There were 178 votes, and only 13% of those votes took Denny Hamlin to qualify on the poll. He was one of the favorites coming in, and we'll see what he can do here. Obviously, he's out of the car now, but 5 more drivers still to qualify. Next up will be Joey Logano. Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., Chris Buescher, and Josh Berry, in that order, will be the final 5 drivers to try to post the fast time. Denny Hamlin's been great on the short track so far this season. All 3 of his wins coming on shorter tracks. 4 if you include the Busch Light Clash. All of his wins on 1 mile racetracks and less in length in 2024. So having a good starting spot could be great for Denny. He's got 2 more teammates that have to qualify yet of Bell and Truex. No more Chevys to qualify. 2nd and 3rd overall in the final round for them, as they will be locked into the 4th and 6th place starting spot, that being Elliott and Dillon. Waiting for Logano to get the hand signal from the official at the end of pit road to start his lap now. Michael Allen, also thanks for tuning in. Damon Collins, thanks for watching also. Richard Fulmer. We're 20 likes away still from 100, so be sure to hit that like button if you guys have not done so yet. Closing minutes of the stream here as qualifying for round 2 continues. Joey Logano on track will start his timed lap, first of 2. Final round, you're just going to be running 2 laps regardless of which one is quicker. Even split for the most part as to which lap is the quickest between the 2 in this second round. Joey Logano slower than the 5 drivers who have already gone out for qualifying. 23.058 on his first lap. So he's going to need a big pickup. Definitely had a big pickup through turns 1 and 2. Doesn't look like it's going to be quick enough to knock Denny Hamlin off the pole, though. And losing more time through 3 and 4 for the second consecutive lap. Yeah, lap 2 slower for Logano, 23.11. A little less than a tenth of a second slower than what he ran. So Joey Logano will not get the pole. Hamlin currently. Bell with a couple poles this season, looking for yet another. Bell's been great on this style of racetrack all season. He's got 2 wins on flatter racetracks this year. Phoenix and New Hampshire, both 1-mile racetracks. This one's slightly shorter. A lot more tire degradation here as well. 22.965 through lap 1. Bell not as quick on lap 2. 5th overall, but that will put him on the front row for now as he beat out Joey Logano's lap time. Again, fastest from each group will get a front row starting spot. Fastest overall, obviously, will get the pole. Still about a tenth of a second difference between Hamlin's lap and Bell's lap that were quicker. Both of them ran their fastest of 2 qualifying laps on their first. Martin Truex Jr. in his final season, trying to get a pole before the season's out. Truex going to jump into that front row spot for now with a 22.924, but he's still going to have to pick up about 0.05 of a second to knock Hamlin off the pole on lap 2. Can Truex find it? Drove it in pretty deep through 1 and 2. Lost a little time off the exit of the corner. Needs a big pickup in 3 and 4. And he is going to lose time through 3 and 4. Lost a couple hundredths. And he did end up overall faster on his second lap than his first. That could challenge for a front row spot with just 2 more drivers to qualify. 22.916. Couple thousandths of a second quicker for Truex on his second lap versus his first. Chris Buescher on the track. He won this summer Richmond race a season ago. Won back-to-back races in the stretch of Richmond and Michigan. This was his first of 3 wins that he had last year, all late in the regular season. So maybe this could be the hot stretch post-Olympic break that Buescher can strike again. He needs a win. Could still get in on points. He's plus 17 coming in, but that is by no means comfortable, as the team has fallen off in performance in these middle summer months of the season. Chris Buescher not so hot on lap 1, 23.022. He's not going to get the pole on his second lap either as he loses time through 3 and 4. He does pick up overall from lap 1 to lap 2. Jumps to a 22.986. But with that lap time, he only moves up 1 position on Logano. He's actually already ahead of Logano on his first lap, but he did pick up in time overall. So inside of row 3 right now is where Buescher stands. Final driver to qualify was the fastest overall through round 1, that being Josh Berry. Berry over a tenth of a second slower than Hamlin through his first lap. Berry would be inside of row 2 based off of his lap 1 time. Berry lost quite a bit of time through 1 and 2, and unless he gains over a tenth of a second, it looks like Denny Hamlin is going to nab yet another pole this season as he tries to go for the Richmond sweep. 3rd is where Berry will qualify, as his first lap was the quickest of them, and that timed in for Berry at a 22.959. Here's your pole sitter, Denny Hamlin, at the Richmond Raceway.
Let's go. Did that surprise you? It seems like your reaction would indicate that.
We didn't slow his car in the first round, but yeah, the team made a great adjustments. That's the bottom line to it. He told me if I backed up my time, we'd have a shot at it. But
certainly a great job of this whole FedEx Gamer team, and certainly unexpected given kind of the practice and first round qualifying we had.
What did your car do there that you felt like was the difference maker, even maybe compared to your your two teammates there?
We just made the correct adjustments that we're going to have to make for the race as well. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
All right, Denny Hamlin on the pole for the 3rd time this year and 4th time at Richmond. So let's take a look at how we'll start.
Oh, I didn't mean to exit out of the leaderboard there. Sorry for that. We'll go through the starting lineup. I just scrolled down the screen. Okay, I thought we lost it there. Keep the top 10 qualifying order up on screen right now. We'll go through the starting lineup for this race here today. Or for tomorrow's race, I should say, post-qualifying today. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., JJR locking out the front row with Hamlin on the pole. Row 2 will be Josh Berry and Chase Elliott. Christopher Bell, Austin Dillon, row 3. Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace will line up in row number 4. Row 5 for Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick. Row 6, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch. Row 7, William Byron, Ty Gibbs, Kyle Larson, Noah Gragson in row number 8. In row number 9 for the start of tomorrow's race will be Alex Bowman, Austin Cindric, Carson Hocevar, Shane Smith, the Spire rookies in row 10. Row 11 for Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain, the 2 Trackhouse cars. Todd Gilliland, Corey LaJoie in row 12. Row 13 for Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece, Eric Jones, and Michael McDowell in row 14. Brad Keselowski, Ty Dillon, row 15. Row number 16 is going to be Harrison Burton, Daniel Hemrick. Row 17 for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Riley Herbst, John Hunter Nemechek, Justin Haley, row 18. Rounding out the 37-car field in row 19 will be Parker Retzlaff. Again, tomorrow's full flag-to-flag coverage of the NASCAR Cup Series race right here on the channel will begin at 5:30 Eastern Time with our pre-race coverage. And tonight's Truck Series race coverage will begin at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, bottom of the next hour, about 45 minutes from now. I'll see you for that one. That will also be on Fox Sports 1. Cup race tomorrow on the USA Network. Thanks for everybody tuning in for today's Cup practice qualifying stream over the last couple hours. Hope to see you for the race tomorrow and the truck race again later tonight. And yeah, see you very soon. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't yet on the stream. Subscribe for more NASCAR content, live commentary streams every NASCAR weekend just like this. See you soon, everyone.